Good morning, everyone. Out of respect for time, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to say thank you for joining us for this session this morning. Thank you, Quaylen, for making my PowerPoint. That I will try. It's only 3 slides. I'll probably mess it up 2 or 3 times. So, my name is Nicole Ayola. I'm the Deputy Human Services Director for the City of Phoenix. And in that role, I'm responsible for the administrative functions for the Human Services Department. I am a member of the Central Arizona chapter of the National Forum of Black Public Administrators. And the reason that I am here today as the moderator for this session is because anybody who knows and works with me knows that I am the in-house therapist by default, Had I not ended up doing the work that I do for the City of Phoenix, I probably would be one of these individuals right here. So I'm the first person to have to direct someone to seek therapy. I'm the last person to go myself. I tell this story, and I've told this story, and I think I shared it with them, that just after this last couple of years, I finally found myself in a position, after sending numerous colleagues to go find someone to speak with, in a position to go and do it myself. So this morning, we're going to talk about, are you okay? And if not, it's okay, because none of us are okay. I'm okay today, but if you had asked me, right, if you had been in my office on Tuesday, it would have been a whole different story. So that being said, how many of you guys are okay? Honestly, how many of you guys are okay? Okay, how many of you guys are not okay? Raise your hand. Everyone in this room should have their hand up because there's something that is affecting each and every one of us. And so today our goal is to really have a conversation about that, to talk about communities of color, to talk about mental health in general, to get some resources. I hope that you will leave here with some resources, something to research, or something that you hadn't thought about that triggers you to help yourself. Good morning. Good morning. Oh my, good morning. I should have waited the full 2 minutes, huh? Yes. You're late to class. You're late to class. Okay. Okay, so you guys missed my fantastic introductions. That means you guys are going to get all the questions, but we're hopeful that you'll be able to leave here with either some resources, some questions, something to research, or just a tool that can help yourself or help someone else that you know. Because the reality is everybody is dealing with a little bit of something. We've all dealt with COVID by default. There's not one of us that hasn't been touched by that. So just that alone says a lot. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with introductions for our bios for our wonderful panel members here. I'm going to start with Dominica White. Dominica is the founder and owner of Resilient Reflections, LLC. She is an experienced professional counselor who has provided mental health and behavioral health services in the Valley for more than 15 years. She specializes in developmentally based psychotherapy, birth to 5 trauma, and attachment work. She brings a wealth of experience and passion working with children, adolescents, and adults. Her clinical interests include relationship issues, depression, anxiety, trauma, and career transitions. She received her Master's of Science in Professional Counseling from Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. Not only is she an advocate for mental health, but she is also a wife, mother of 2 teenagers, and an Air Force veteran. Dominica
Good morning,
White.
everyone. Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Next, I'm going to introduce Kelly Randon. Kelly is a licensed professional counselor with the State of Arizona Board of Behavioral Health Examiners. Kelly received her master's in secondary education in 2003 and a bachelor's of science degree in biology. Kelly was a high school science teacher working in inner city schools in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She then worked as an education administrator before realizing her real passion was working with families one-on-one and youth, helping them to navigate their own personal issues and find wholeness. Kelly is the owner of Lenity Art and Wellness. I had to look that up, so you have to explain what Lenity is. Okay. A small private practice focused on helping individuals and teens of color in particular use creative healing. Kelly's future endeavors include becoming a clinical supervisor and expanding her practice to include other therapists of color to have an even greater impact on this community. It's Kelly Randon. Last but not least, Wayne Bishop is the founder and practicing psychotherapist of A New Journey Counseling, LLC. He is a licensed associate counselor with more than 6 years of experience. His experience and practice includes adolescent, adult group, and program setting, utilizing cognitive behavioral therapy, client-centered therapy, art therapy, and family systems therapy. Wayne Bishop is also educated in depression, mood disorders, trauma, anxiety, substance abuse, holistic, and family counseling. Wayne Bishop continues to receive supervision from an independent practicing psychotherapist for mentorship and growth with over 15 plus years of experience. He has a background, received his bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Fairleigh Dickinson University, located in Teaneck, Hassaneck, New Jersey. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Wayne would later work at at-risk inner city youth. That's difficult. At-risk inner city youth in central New Jersey and Philadelphia before joining the United States Navy for 8 years in active duty service, where he developed an interest and passion for education himself, therapy for trauma, depression, and military members. Wayne would complete his contract with honorable discharge and later graduate from Argosy University, Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona campus with his master's degree in mental health counseling in 2014. Wayne began his therapeutic work with Mountain Valley Counseling, providing clinical groups and individual sessions for maladaptive sexual behaviors, depression, substance use, and anxiety. He would later transition to working for multiple companies, providing individual group and family therapy for the Gila River community. He would open A New Journey Counseling Services in 2019. It's Wayne Bishop. So we're scheduled for an hour this morning, and this is a two-part session. What I'm going to continue this conversation into the next session, which is this afternoon, and hopefully we can keep it fluid because this is just not enough time for us to have the conversation we need to have today and start back over again in the afternoon. So I hope that you all will come back and join us if you find value in the conversation that we're having today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I am going to start with having each of you explain how it is that you got into the work that you're doing today. Kelly, let's start with you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm super happy to be here today. So I've been in practice for about 5 years now. And before that, before becoming a counselor, I was, as in my bio, I was an educator. And I was working in inner city schools, working with mostly Black youth, and found myself doing a lot more counseling than educating, because you can't educate a student until you meet some of their basic needs and emotional needs. And so through that journey, and I was enjoying that journey of working one-on-one with students, I decided to go into the counseling field. And so now I still work with a lot of teens, but I also work with young adults and families, and working through some of those basic things that influence behavior, such as childhood trauma and depression and anxiety. So that's a little bit of my journey.
I began my journey in 2005 when I separated honorably from the United States Air Force. During my time in the Air Force overseas, I volunteered at a lot of crisis shelters, a lot of crisis nurseries, and that's where my love and passion was developed for serving children and families. I actually had a dream when I was 6 years old that I was working in an office helping with children. And so it's kind of come full circle. Once I left the military, I started my career working in group homes. I worked investigations for Child Protective Services. That was rough. I learned a lot doing that. I then began supervising the victim witness unit at the county attorney's office in Tucson. And then at that point, I was like, I felt like I was on the peripheral and I wanted to actually be a helper. So I had a very, very amazing opportunity to work with the Birth to Five guru down in Tucson. His name is Dr. Chet Chiverton. And I began to learn about early childhood development, early childhood trauma, bonding and attachment, and learning how development begins prenatal. Do you know what I mean? Just how the mother holds the baby in mind, things like that. So I really had a love for the Birth to Five population. I did a lot of court-ordered evaluations and assessments for parenting, looking at the quality of the relationship, looking at how children are responding to parents. So did that for many years and worked in a lot of outpatient settings. And then into 2021, February 2021, I went full-time with my private practice. I feel like I always tell people I'm just myself, I'm never fake, I'm never phony. I tell people, I'm not new to this, I'm true to it, I love what I do. I see it as, I really enjoy being a helper. And I'm at a really good point in my career. I'm really honored to be here, that people would love, people care to hear what I have to say. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm looking forward to the dialogue that we'll have today.
Look at you. Kind of feel like I want to beatbox on here. I got me getting interested in therapy was a personal journey. Single mom, raising 4 of our own in Trenton, New Jersey, which is full of drugs, gangs. Black role models in my life, 7 uncles. All 7 of my uncles love me. I know that to be true. Taught me how to play basketball, taught me how to box, taught me how to dress and other things. I know they loved me again, but not one of them told me it's okay to talk about depression. Nephew, come to me when you're sad, come to me when you're scared, right? And this is men in the room. This is also what we get when it comes to manhood, like how to fight, how to dress, how to protect your family, how to make money, everything but the emotional wellness, which, excuse me, but men, we compensate with sex with multiple women, with drugs, with alcohol, with fast cars and everything else. And that transitions down to 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. And I'm still compensating with things and physical, compensation. So I never got that. And you don't know as a young man. So me, anger management issues, father night in my life going through, got a basketball scholarship to Fairleigh Dickinson, but had anger issues. So I lost a full scholarship to Georgia Tech, y'all, because of my anger issues. My mother, God bless her, was a teacher, said, you need therapy, son. And she said, I'll let you take this scholarship to FEU if you see a therapist. Otherwise, you're going to go to school close to me. So I took it because I thought I was going to the league. Was not that good. But I thought I was going to the league. So I took it. And an awakening. I start talking, first couple of sessions, I'm like, I'm not talking to this old dude. But eventually I saw, slow and steady, and it made me feel better, and it was a change. So didn't want to pay for grad school. So I joined the Navy to get money for grad school. That was the plan. Like, I ain't about to have no college loans. So it was supposed to be 2 years to get VA benefits, but 2 years turned into 8 because I enjoyed traveling, seeing the world. And then while experiencing, I was in bomb squad, military police. So experiencing, some traumatic events and stuff, and seeing my counterparts and brothers in arms experience that, like, trauma. The Navy dealt with it like, go see the chaplain. Chaplain, like, you good? Yeah, I think so. Do you want to hurt somebody? Well, ain't that what we're here to do? Do you want to hurt yourself? No? All right, get back out there. And I'm like, is that the equivalent of it? Like, and that's how they dealt with it while you're active duty. The spark was my last year in Kuwait, right before I got out, 27 soldiers on our base committed suicide. Marines and Navy committed suicide. And I was like, yeah, and that's where it sparked, and I got my passion. So when I got here, when I had about 6 months left, I just started applying to different grad schools and say, this is what I want to do. And that's how I got into it. So the MBA ain't work out. That ain't work out.
Maybe it's just a dream deferred.
Right? Right?
Okay, so in recent years, talk about mental health and cultural trauma has had an impact on communities of color and has made its way to mainstream media. Repeated trauma and stress has real effects on health, both physical and mental. And through a dialogue on mental health, though the dialogue on mental health is changing, it's often considered taboo in many communities of color. Black mental health matters. I'm focused on Black mental health because I'm Black, and this is the National Forum of Black Public Administrators, but this conversation reaches all communities. So Black mental health is defined as the individual and collective experiences that influence the wellness of a community. Trauma is the biggest influencer on Black mental health. Family trauma, historical trauma, all of those things. We're moving into present day, and present day trauma also has had effect on many of our communities, not just the Black community. So we're going to continue with some conversations today, and I want to start out with, and I'm going to start out with you, Wayne. what do you see as the difference in how you approach clients who come to see you, whether they be male or female?
I don't have a lot of female clients that request my services for individual counseling. To be clear, my company contracts with behavioral health group homes for adults, outpatient programs for adults, and charter schools. Because I don't know if a lot of these charter schools, they're not required by Arizona state law to have a counselor on set. And that's kind of counterproductive, problematic, because when kids have behaviors in the school, it's kind of in school suspension, do it again, you're out of here. Now, mom has to call off of work, right? And miss days at work and stuff like that. So those are what I do. I do have about 6 individual male clients that come in for individual counseling. So usually when I don't get too many. I do get calls from women saying, hey, do you know a Black female therapist? And I got Kelly cards in my.
It's funny because I called Kelly and I was like, do you know a Black male therapist?
Right, exactly. Exactly. But when it comes to Black men, I usually get referrals from our backbone, the women in our lives. It's usually a mother, a wife, a sister saying, my son, my father, my husband needs therapy. Are you taking clients? And me to say yes, I am, or I have another therapist that will. The biggest thing is I get Black men. We're both Black men. We're both minority men. I have my first initial session where I do not charge anything. It's a get to know you. Mm-hmm. Do not assume because I'm a Black man that I'm the best therapist for you, right? And Jordans may look good, but they might not feel comfortable, you know? So I do my first initial session. I say, meet me at a coffee shop. You pick, I meet you. It's not even at my office. I want them to be comfortable. And it's, let me tell you about me, why I got into it, kind of like what I just did with you guys. And you tell me about you. And we can see if this works and if it's more appropriate. And then I go over expectation, being honest. It doesn't work if it's not honest. Mm-hmm. You're telling me you want to build a house when you really want to build a car. 6 months we're working on building a house and then you leave and you didn't gain what you needed. So that's what I focus on, finding a therapist that's comfortable for you. And it's not defined just by skin color, right? I've learned, if the case, I'm from Trenton, New Jersey, and I'm a Black male. I have a client that's from Nigeria. Completely different culture and perspective. So you still have to do the work on being open to having a discussion. And one last thing is make sure your therapist has a therapist. I tell every client, if your therapist doesn't have a therapist, get a new therapist. Okay. A dentist needs a dentist, a lawyer needs a lawyer, a doctor needs a doctor, right? So if I'm seeing clients every day for trauma, depression, that's a lot to carry. Who am I downloading to and processing with? So that's how I redirect.
Okay. Yep. So Kelly.
Yes.
What stigmas do you see when you're seeing clients about not being okay?
Stigmas with clients not being okay.
The stigmas associated with mental health or lack of mental wellness.
Well, I think, just coming from the Black community and people of color in general, I think there is just a stigma in general about seeking services and about seeking mental health services. I know for me, when I was just starting out and getting involved in the community and getting involved in mental health services, I worked with the Native American population for a couple of years. And sometimes it's more about building a relationship with a client than it is about diving into techniques. Especially with people of color, we need to feel safe. We need to feel like this is a person that, I can be emotionally safe with. And so sometimes it takes months. Sometimes, that's why some people are in therapy for a couple of years versus other people who, they're ready and they dive in and they only, it only takes them 6 months to meet their goals. But sometimes you have to take the time to really build that safety and build that trust with the client so that those stigmas that they come with, that can even be worked out or be talked about and dealt with in therapy. So therapy should be the safest place for you and for anybody. So if you don't feel safe with your therapist, emotionally safe, it's probably not the right fit for you. You should never feel judged. There should always be unconditional, positivity. Of course, your therapist is going to challenge you and help you grow, but it should be in a context of safety and it should be in context of no judgment. And so I think a lot of times people do feel judged. They feel like, you know, there's that stigma that something is wrong with you if you're going to therapy. And so having a therapist that you can work those things out with, that's one of the things I pride myself on, and I try really hard to do, is to just be a place, to be a space where my clients feel safer than talking to me than anybody else. And so if a client feels that way, a lot of times the stigmas fall off, and you can actually do some good work after that. So I
Do you
hope
ever
that
find
answers the question.
yourself in a situation where you feel like you need to end a relationship with a client because they're not willing to do the work, or there just isn't a connection there?
Absolutely. You know, it's few and far in between. You know, most clients, and this sounds really arrogant, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I'm pretty good at building rapport with clients. So a lot of times, you know, even if the first session is awkward or the first couple sessions are awkward, usually a client comes back and they do feel comfortable with me. But I have had some that, you know, it's just not clicking. They're not really motivated, or they're super like resistant to the process. And so at that point, you know, it's not about me and what's best for me. It's about what's best for the client. And so I don't have a problem telling someone, you know, hey, this is not a good fit. I appreciate the work that we've done so far, but I think there's somebody else that can help you get deeper. And here's some referrals. And you know, if it's best for the client, I'm going to do that. And I have done that before. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Kelly, not Kelly, sorry. Dominica. What do you say to those of us who are out there? These people out here who are struggling with something, but are hesitant to seek help, hesitant to make that call, hesitant to find a referral. What do you say to them about how they get to see one of you all?
Okay. Well, you know, feeling uncomfortable with whatever you're challenged with is normal. Kelly and I, look, I'm telling on you too. We were just talking about, are you nervous? Yeah, I'm nervous. You know, we're regular people. We go through our own emotions as well. Taking the step to seek services, I would say, it's being willing to go into a place of the unknown, right? And most of us are plagued by the fears of the unknown, the what ifs. If I go to therapy, who am I going to be talking to? What are they going to think about me? They're the therapist. They know everything. They may judge me. So when you have that kind of a perspective, it kind of keeps you limited. You probably aren't going to go and seek therapy. You have to have the desire to change. You have to want change. You have to be willing to address the things that have been lying dormant in your life that are causing these little symptoms here and there that are causing you to be uncomfortable. As a therapist myself, stepping out and seeking therapy, it was tough for me, I'll be honest, because I'm like, I'm supposed to have it together. I can't tell them what's going on with me. She's gonna think I'm crazy. How can I help people when I need help, right? So a lot of the things that we talk about and work through in therapy, us therapists are working through that as well. And the journey through therapy and getting well and healing, or however you label this thing, it's a daily thing. It's a consistent thing. It's an everyday choice. So to kind of circle back and answer the question as it was asked, get on Psychology Today, start talking to people, decide what kind of person works for you. Just like Wayne was saying, just because I'm a person of color doesn't mean that every person of color is going to work with me. I definitely provide a very laid back environment. I like people to show up as themselves. Generally, I'm in some sneakers, some ripped jeans, and a t-shirt. I like to show up as I am, how I am today. I was very professional. I can do this too. But you know, people of color, we like to feel comfortable. We like to be able to come in, get a drink of water, get a snack, sit back, have a little music going. We don't want bright lights and a Q&A dialogue. There's things that we have to be aware of culturally that are really important. So when you're seeking a therapist, find somebody that you feel a good vibe with, somebody that you can really talk to. And also being aware that, you know, sometimes there is transference or countertransference. Clients who are like, oh my gosh, you really remind me so much of my auntie. I really, really like you, but you remind me so much of her. And I feel so comfortable with you that I don't feel like I can open up and share. These are the real things that happen. So I look at therapy as two people telling each other the truth. It's two people being honest. If we as clinicians present fake and phony, oh, tell me more about that. We're trying to get everything right. Our clients can't be honest because they're dealing with us who aren't presenting as being really honest. So if you're feeling kind of uncomfortable, you have some symptoms, or you just want someone to hold space for you, meaning a safe space where you can just talk and have some healthy dialogue with someone who's going to be non-judgmental, someone who's not going to follow you home after, that you don't have to look in the face when you just said whatever you had to say. Use that as your pivot point to go to therapy. You don't have to have a problem. You don't have to have a crisis. And if you find a good therapist, they'll be like a good mechanic. If you go in for a pop tire, they're going to still check your oil, look under the hood, vacuum out the inside. And you want to find a clinician that's going to say, you know what, even if you're not sure why you're here, let's look at everything. Like, let's explore all the areas. Let's look at the whole person and move forward from there. So if you're a little apprehensive, if you're a little hesitant, know that that's normal, but don't allow that to be the thing that keeps you locked in. Because again, when we build walls or when we try to protect ourselves, it's a great thing. But what happens is you're keeping things out, right? But you're also keeping stuff in. So just kind of keep that in mind. Shop around, just like Wayne says, like shoe shopping. Sometimes everything looks good, it may not fit good. And it's okay to say to your therapist, you know, I don't know if we're a good fit. And most therapists are going to say, how do you feel about how the session went? Do you feel like we're aligned? Am I somebody that you can work with? So just find someone that works for you, someone that you feel really comfortable with. And someone who's about building the relationship, because nobody likes to talk to strangers. Although we're trusted professionals, when you come for your first, second session, you don't really know us. So it's important to get to know your therapist. Find somebody who's not a stone wall, that's also open to sharing, not oversharing, but that find somebody that you can relate to. So, and one more thing, I just want to shout out my intern. Her name is Sandy Hernandez. I brought her today. She's a student at Grand Canyon. I just wanted to acknowledge that she's here. I'm super happy to have her along. She's graduating soon, so
Congratulations. So this next question I'm going to ask now is a perfect segue. I'm going to ask of each of you, and you guys can feel free to answer it in whatever order that you want. How do you continue to support your clients when you yourself are in a position of losing faith? In the process, not faith, and we'll get to religion later, but faith in the process.
Well, I think the first step for me is acknowledging when I'm in those spaces, and being, because it's easy to keep going and knowing like, ooh, I'm having a day or there's some things going on, but I have to keep showing up for my clients, which is very unhealthy, because when we continue to show up when we know we don't have what it takes, it's not a good thing. I'm very honest with my clients. I think that's a huge part of the client therapist relationship. So sometimes when I'm off my square or I'm not all the way where I want to be, I'm very open. This has been a really rough week. I'm going through some stuff, but I'm really trying to show up, but at the same time, taking care of myself, making sure that I'm just not letting this stuff pile up to where I burn out. So for me, it's being honest with my client, being honest with myself, and then figuring out what am I going to do to address this thing and not letting things just continuously pile up. I think there's something so important about honesty in therapy, because you can't present like you're this perfect, unflawed person that doesn't deal with things. Like we experience real life too. We have bad days. There's some days like, I did not feel like talking to this person. This is normal, right? If you find a therapist who says they don't ever get tired, they are not telling you the truth. Okay, we all get tired. But if I present to you like I always have great days, everything's always wonderful, you're going to be confused when I say, you know what, I am exhausted today, but I still got you. We're gonna figure this out together. Or if I know my mood is off, I say to my client, I may seem a little different today. This is what happened, or this is why. So just moving in honesty and transparency, that's what most of us want. We want to be told the truth, because when we have the truth, we can make real honest decisions based on the truth that's been presented to us.
Ladies first.
Me?
Yeah.
Just to piggyback on that, I think for me, it's being proactive with self-care. A lot of times we use self-care as reactive, like after something happens or after we have a breakdown or after we're super stressed out, then we want to start up on our self-care. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's better to be proactive and to be doing self-care on a regular basis so that the burnout is preventable, So for me, like, I'm still working on it. I'm definitely not there yet. But for me, it's like having a good morning routine where I spend some time and I like meditate, or, I try to work out regularly. Still working on that. Pandemic kind of threw me off, but we're getting back on track. So having those kind of things in place where I'm actively taking care of myself, I find myself having more energy for my clients and doing better as a therapist. Now, on the days when it's just like, same thing, when it's just like, I can't do it, like I don't have space for you, just really being aware that I don't have the capability of bringing my best to you today. And sometimes if it gets to a point where I need to cancel, I do, because I would rather take the time to take care of myself than show up and not give the space that my clients need, or it not be a good session. And so, yeah, just knowing those things. And I have done it. I've done it, not frequently, but there's definitely been some days where I'm just like, hey guys, I love y'all, but I'm not feeling good today. And, I just need a personal day. And most of my clients, because we're human and they're human and they know I'm human, they understand. So, yeah.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron. Yeah. Really, before I answer that, I do want to encourage, like she was saying, the best time to look for a therapist, I think, is me personally, my personal perspective is when you're doing well. Look when you're doing well. There's no pressure. You don't feel like, I got to go get help. I got to deal with this. When everything's going, when the ball's in your court and you feel like things are going well for you, look for a therapist then, right? You don't go shop for no Jimmy Choos or red bottoms when you're broke, right? You gotta wait till you get that money and be like, oh,
Some people do. No.
there's so much.
Like, look, okay, look.
Y'all be like, yes, if it's clearance, yes.
Right.
But when we're emotionally overwhelmed, the brain, the irrational thinking patterns flood us.
Yeah.
So if I'm emotionally overwhelmed and I'm shopping for a therapist, I'm probably going to take it's like when you lose your job and you got all these financial obligations. You're going to take something you really don't want because you're thinking, I got to take care of this. So you just take a job you really don't like, right? It's no different when shopping for a therapist. If I'm emotionally overwhelmed, I got so much trauma or stress is going on in my life, I'm probably going to see a therapist. But when things are going well, I can take my time. I can meet a therapist. I didn't get that connection. I didn't feel, whether it was spiritually, physically, whatever it was. So I encourage you, best time to shop for a therapist is when things are going well. When you feel things are good, you'll know when that is going well for you, right? When I'm losing faith in the process or everything, yes, or just in therapy in general, because it does happen. I think that's a physical, mental, and spiritual journey you have to do. One, every other Friday, I see my psychotherapist. He's in Tempe, right? I go to see him every other Friday. He helps with that process, right? Two, the gym. I love lifting weights, and it's a kind of break. Coping skills don't fix the problem, but it gives me a break so I can decompress mentally and emotionally. And then the irrational thinking, impulsive thinking patterns can go away. And then I can kind of like slowly think about the process and make an educated or more mindful choice or decision. So physically, I do that. And spiritually, I pray to the Most High. And I ask for strength, I ask to guide me, give me insight, make me more aware of things that might be triggering me. And the fourth is training. No therapist knows everything. It's constantly evolving, like people do, like times do. Who in here ever would have thought, like I love sci-fi movies and zombie apocalypse, right? I'm a nerd. I am a nerd. So I watched these end of the world, Armageddon, all these things, like never thought I would live through something like COVID. Who in here actually thought we'd live through the world being shut down and say, don't go outside?
If you had watched Contagion, we all would.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know it existed until COVID happened.
Right, exactly. I do watch Doomsday Preppers, right? So, but you never thought that, right? So it's in therapy, a part of gaining my faith back is when a new training on CBT or the brain or all that stuff comes out, I'm taking it. It helps give me faith. Oh, more research, more things we learned about it. So all that, I think, is educational, is mental, is mindful, it's spiritual and physical. That helps me get my faith back. Right.
I'm sorry.
One last thing. And when a client, man, good thing. 50 could say, man, dude, you really ain't helped me. One person says, you really helped. That this process helped. Boom, good. I'm good for another couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Kelly?
Just to piggyback off of that, I think, along with training, therapy is also an art. It's a science, but it's an art. And so sometimes when I'm feeling burnt out or I'm feeling like I don't know what I'm doing with this person or whatever, I remind myself that therapy, sometimes it really is just holding space. If I don't have a good technique for you today, I don't have an intervention, I don't know, I'm going to be there just to listen and just to hold space for you. This is your time. And so those moments, and sometimes those are the most powerful sessions. And that reminds me that, what therapy is all about. So.
So that was a good segue, and we're going to ask this last question, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. I know you guys all have questions for the group, but religion. How do you all work with individuals who are struggling with seeking therapy, seeking help, talking to anybody because of their specific religion?
And I can, oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
You guys are ready. Go ahead. I'm still going. Let me see.
Well, the first thing that pops into mind. So just a little background on me. I was raised in church, super, Christian family. So I understand the difficulty that a lot of people in religion or in church have with psychology and with therapy. There's a lot of stigmas about it. Like, and people in church, it's kind of that whole thing of like, well, if you have an emotional problem, just pray about it. Like, just pray about it, give it to God, And so, and there is some healing in that, right? Having a spiritual connection and dependence on a higher power, absolutely. But what I would tell people is, when you have a physical health issue, when you have a broken arm, you just got diagnosed with cancer, what are you going to do? You're going to seek help from a professional that knows what they're doing to help you heal. And similarly, therapists, psychologists are educated. It is a science. If you're having an emotional issue, depression, anxiety, dealing with trauma, we are trained to help you deal with that. It's a medicine. It's a medical field in itself. And so it's not just, it's based on evidence and evidence-based treatment. So those are kind of some of the examples I use to help people in faith kind of see that that there is value to it. So
That was good. Like, I don't need to say anything. I haven't really been challenged with many people coming in with with an issue with their faith. But I do have people who ask me questions. How should things be handled? How should we navigate things from a faith perspective? I also was a person who grew up in a Christian household in very much in a box, very much limited, very much this is the only way things can be and there's no other way. I personally kind of grew out of that box. I've expanded my thinking, and this is personal. This is no disrespect to any faith group, but I've expanded my thinking. I've become more, I know God is all, but I'm more of a spiritual person. I'm actually a Reiki practitioner. I believe there's a lot of different ways to heal the body. So what I say to my clients is that I am open to working in whatever context is meaningful to them, but also some of the stuff that, Kelly was saying, that, even when we rely on God or whoever it is that we seek, there's still things that we have to be responsible for, right? Because we've always heard faith without works is dead, right? So you have to do the work yourself too. There's a part of you that has to come along with your faith and with this knowing to actually kind of walk it like you talk it, to really be able to take what you're going through and what you're praying about and saying, how do I put action to this? And what does that look like for me? And then how do I move forward? So, although I haven't really experienced many of those barriers, I like, as Kelly said, just really kind of helping the client understand what therapy is, that is really not weird. It's really not tricky. It's, it's really two people telling each other the truth is really what it is. But I have learned so much from my clients and so much as far as what they're open to, what their spiritual practices are. And for me, the Reiki portion, the energy healing, it works for me, personally. And then that's something that I also offer to my clients if they're interested, as we're doing like early childhood trauma, inner child work, things like that. So, the last thing I want to say is I do remember, growing up and it was like, you pray, and God will answer your prayers. And God has answered many of my prayers. But what I realized is that all those prayers that I prayed, I also had action behind them. Every prayer that I've ever sent out, I've always done something to come behind that. And I'm not just talking about money and the family. I'm talking about my emotional health, my mental health. I'm a veteran. I was an Al Jabber. I loaded weapons. I loaded bombs on fighter aircraft. I saw planes leaving with bombs, coming back with none. And my faith was absolutely tested in that time. And so it's a combination of your faith piece and also put in the work to think about what are your thoughts that you're having that are, your thoughts that are becoming these feelings that are becoming your actions and behaviors. So yeah, that's the best answer I have for that.
So I'm going to touch on something before we go to you, Wayne.
Mhm.
You mentioned the fact that you're a Reiki practitioner.
Mhm.
So for those of you guys who were here with the opening session, and I asked everybody if you're okay, and I said, I'm okay today, but I wasn't on Tuesday, it's because of Reiki. And so I'm going to share this very personal moment, and my boss is in the room and she knows this story. I have been blocked. My chakras, I couldn't get it together. I'm not an emotional person. Those who know me know I'm not an emotional person, right, Quaylen? Okay. I'm not an emotional person. I had to have a conversation with Lucetta over here the other day about something in general, and it made me tear up. It was literally one tear. She got confused and she started looking for, I need tissues. And I said, nope, you don't. That's the one tear I'm gonna have for this whole year. You don't need to worry about getting any tissues, right? So I also mentioned to you all that I was one who sought out therapy at the beginning of this year. And I was talking to her and I said, I can't get it together. I can't get my emotions. I can't release anything. She said, I think you need to go back and have another Reiki session. So it'll be 3 weeks ago this past Sunday, I had that Reiki session, and my practitioner was calling me, are you okay? Is there anything happening? No, there's nothing transformational. I'll be fine. I'm just gonna be blocked for the rest of my life. Until Tuesday. And Tuesday, I reached into a drawer to get some oatmeal to eat because it was 11 o'clock and I hadn't had breakfast. I reached in and the oatmeal packet, apparently, I don't know what happened, but it exploded. Oatmeal all over the floor. I lost it. I could not get it together. I could not get it together for the whole day. My boss comes into my office, you need to be at this meeting at 12 o'clock. And I was like, whew. And I literally said, okay, let me get it together. So I offer that as a Christian woman who also practices Reiki. It is a form of therapy. If you ask me, it's a way to get through some things, to unblock some things that you just don't know are there. So I'm also a very private person. So the fact that I just shared that with a whole bunch of strangers, people who I talk to every day don't know that story. So got that. Go ahead, Wade.
Awesome.
Sorry, Quaylen.
That's awesome, Ricky.
Set up.
With spirituality and religion, grew up in Christians is killing it, huh? My mom's a deacon at a church back home in New Jersey. So those conversations was always like, give it to Jesus. And that's cool. Yeah. I'm spiritual now. In treatment, I let clients know, I ask them, and that's part of my intake form, your spiritual preference or choice. I always ask, do you want that to be inclusive? And I do upfront, like she always speaking to honesty, like, okay, because there are spiritual therapists, licensed spiritual therapists out there. I think GCU has that, right? So I'm honest about that. Like, my foundation is not therapy with spirituality be inclusive. However, if you want to include your spirituality in our sessions, I'm okay with that. And I think one thing is, I tell clients, educate me on it. And because all Christians ain't the same. We got Seventh-day Adventists, we got non-denominational, we got Southern Baptists, we got everything. So your therapist should always be open. It's a two-way street to you educating them on your spiritual background, your cultural diversity, and all that stuff. And it is also our job to research it. If you come in, you tell me you're atheist, if I care and I want to do a great job on my downtime or my office time, I should be Googling and researching and pulling books up about that. Right. So I can be well informed. How can I do the best job for you if I'm not well informed? As well as ask, tell me more about being a Seventh-day Adventist. Tell me about being more Buddhist. Tell me more about that. Okay. How would you like to include that in your treatment? Right. Whether at the beginning stages, during the middle, or at the end? Do you feel like this is working with your spirituality? If not, I can help you find a therapist. We can start looking for some. The end of this session, last 10 minutes, we can pull up on a computer some spiritual therapists. So, because it's all about serving. Yeah. We're in a sense, we're servants. So that's how I work with.
Thank you. So we've got about 5 minutes left. And so I want to open it up to questions. I know somebody in this room has a question for our panel. What's your name? And go ahead and ask your question. Oh. Because I got more than one tear in a year.
So quickly, I'm going to give the quick
Can we,
version.
I'm going to have her repeat her
Okay,
question
sure.
so everyone online can hear.
Okay.
Hi, I'm sorry about that. I'm Tanisha Charity. So I had a question about Reiki because this was the first that I've ever heard about it. And I just want to know more.
Okay, I'll just make it a very quick, simple version. So we are energetic, we're vibrational, right? Have you ever walked in a room and you knew something happened, but you didn't know what happened because you could just feel it? Have you ever had some tension between you and someone else and it's like it's awkward and you don't know why? That's that energy that we're feeling. So we have a huge energetic field, right? And then I don't know if you've heard of the chakras. We have 7 of them, just different points through the body. Each one of those points is a point of like for our throat chakra, that's our communication. Our heart chakra, we have a solar plexus. Each point is responsible for different emotional capacities as well as physical capacity. So the practice of Reiki, what Reiki is really the practitioners connecting to your energy field, seeing how big it is, if it's clouded, if there's stagnant energy. We're looking at your masculine energy, your feminine energy, and Reiki also requires the practitioner to be somewhat intuitive, to really be able to understand where your blockages are and to really be able to kind of talk with you after the session about where those things may be. So what a Reiki session looks like is you laying on a bed comfortably, and the practitioner will stand away, connect to your energy field and go through. And when you're connected, you can really feel where the energy is stagnant. You can feel where it's flowing freely. And that gives us indications about where things are blocked. So if I'm moving over your heart and that energy is really stagnant, I may say, well, there may be some disappointment there. What's going on in your heart space? So, it's not for everyone. But for those who, I feel like with anything, if you're open to it and you are looking for the experience, that you'll get something out of it. My first experience with Reiki, I was like, oh, that was cool. That was a nice nap. Didn't think anything happened. I went to sleep that night and I started having these very vivid dreams and memories of things from my childhood that I had no idea happened. Some really good, some not so good. And I was like, I'm not messing with that Reiki. Something's wrong with it. I don't want to deal with it. But I continued to go back and it really became a benefit to me. I was able to really deal with a lot of the blockages in my own heart and my own PowerPoint as a woman. It really helped me connect to some of my emotional deficits. So I enjoy it. I think it's a really great practice. And so I went from just being a client to really learning about the practice, starting to do my own self-healing, going through the courses, and then becoming a practitioner. Thank you for that question. For sure.
We've got right here.
Good morning. My name is Gary Nelson. I'm with the City of Phoenix. And thanks for this panel. It's really helpful. I wanted to talk about Black men specifically and trauma and therapy. And yeah, I can say myself, I was in therapy years ago because my mom, I was a primary caregiver for my mom who had Alzheimer's. But and I have a group of friends who didn't go to therapy because a lot of times we've been taught as men to keep it in, not even do things outward, just keep it in, pack it down. My question to you is, as a group, we have friends who support each other. What are your thoughts about individual therapy versus support groups?
Collectively, I think they all do an amazing job. For example, my company, the first Saturday of every other month, I do a Black men's mental health forum. It's open to all. The first one's about 30 guys, second one's about 35. And it's just to normalize and change the stigmas of Black men in therapy. And if I can see, and my focus was more so just that individually, you're gonna work on some things that you might not feel comfortable with sharing with your friends. So that be needed, the individual therapy. However, there's something to be said if I look around the room and I see men like me,
Right.
just men, right, in support system. I'm not alone in this fight. Then men that look like me, not alone in this fight. So that alone kind of helps the locomotive get more steam going into this therapy thing and me wanting that mental emotional wellness. So they both, I think, are very important and they work together. If I have an individual therapy and then once a month, a big misconception, like therapy has to be like twice a week, every week. No, I have clients that have bi-weekly sessions, but I have the individual to manage my individual stuff. And then I have a support group of men, and not men with the facade or the problematic statements like man up or stuff like that, but men that are crying or men that's sharing their depression or their loss and grief and how they couldn't handle it. All that stuff, right? They work really well together to know they have that support group. So I think finding a support system that's, we all got cultures, subcultures, friends that's healthy, friends that's non-healthy. I'm sure everybody in this room got one unhealthy friend, but that's my friend, right? That's my homie, that's my girl, right? No, he and she ain't about nothing, but we're like, yeah, but we got 20 plus years in.
Right.
He and she ain't going nowhere, right? But compartmentalize for different reasons. we also need a balance. You need those friends that's going to push you, encourage you for emotional, mental wellness. And if you have a couple of brothers and a couple of men in your life like that, it don't have to all be like, yeah, let's go out and go drink. Let's go. Sometimes it could be like, let's just go out and maybe like play miniature golf and just talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, brothers, man, let me talk to you about my losing my mom. And I'm sorry for that. You know, God bless her. I never talked to you about it, right? Because with black men, it's like, you good? I'm good. You good means about 15 different things.
Right,
to black people.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
you good?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
yeah,
But we ain't good though, right?
yeah.
Right. Are you really though? So,
No,
I-
we're not.
yeah,
No.
that's right. That's
And
right.
it's okay,
That's right. It's
which
okay
is
to
the
not
name
be
of the
good.
session.
Right? Exactly. That's right. That's right. So I encourage you to do both, your support system, and it's your support system. When you're weak, they're there. And when you're doing well and they're weak, you're there. So yeah.
So we have reached our time. We are going to continue this conversation at 1:30. Yes, but at 1:30, this is the second session, right? I just need to check the time. I'm sorry. So we will continue this conversation at 1:30. I hope that you all will join us. I hope that you'll come back. I hope you'll bring your questions. I hope you'll bring your thoughts. I hope you'll bring your emotions to the room. We want to thank Kelly, Dominica, and Wayne. And I hope to see you all a little later. Thank you.